very much for joining us this morning. We're going to give folks, we're in the process of letting everyone into the room. So we're just going to give folks another minute or so to get in, get connected, and then we'll kick off the show. Great turnout today. Thank you so much, everyone, for making time to be here. All right, why don't we kick things off officially? Good morning, everyone. I'm Bernard Zwicky with the Center for Automotive Research, your host for this webinar here this Tuesday morning. I'm going to share my screen, and I do have, as usual, a short introductory presentation that will walk us through a bit of an industry update, but then we'll immediately turn things over to our featured speaker, which is a really special guest today. So I want to make sure we give him the maximum amount of time. So again, thank you very much for joining us, March webinar, and we'll go about the usual hour or so and let you have the rest of your day just before 11 o'clock. I did want to make you aware of a new member benefit that we're expecting to pull out this month. And that's going to be a quarterly automotive dashboard. That's where we're going to take a variety of different source information, put it all into sort of an easily recognizable, reasonably easy to follow along format. And the idea being that this is a document you can peruse for a few minutes and get a pretty good darn indication of where the industry is at. And we're also going to include things like a little bit of an automotive investment update from the Car Book of Deals database, as well as the car sales and production forecasts. Those are updated quarterly, and this document being quarterly will give us a great way to get that out to the members and have you sort of have that easily at hand for your own automotive information. So it's something we're very excited about. Should be a pretty darn cool product, and we're putting some of the finishing touches on it as we speak. Upcoming webinars, next one will be in April. We are very much hoping that we will have as in-person an MBS conference in August as possible, and I would say I'm certainly encouraged by what we're seeing in the news, all the latest CDC guidance, but also our own conversations at CAR with exhibitors, sponsors, and the like. I really think that we are going to have a hybrid event with a very large on-the-ground presence in Traverse City. And as part of that, we would anticipate August 4th. Those of you that are there, we would invite you to a dinner. And then we would have a short meeting as always on the 5th at MBS. And all those details we will be keeping you up to date on. But I did want to always provide you the dates of all of the webinars, and they're obviously 10 a.m. Eastern time for each one of those. All right, quick little discussion here about what's been happening in the industry most recently. And you can see through February, the SAR, the seasonally adjusted annual rate, is at a rate of about 15.7 million units, a little bit lower than January, but still pretty darn strong. And as we talk about what's happening in terms of the industry today, we're over most of the COVID disruption. The industry really adapted very quickly. And where our eye is right now is more on the microchip disruption side. And so, we have production being impacted that's going to limit some vehicle availability. And it's only a question of how that shakes out in the overall market. However, automakers are being strategic about where they assign the available chip capacity. And in short, it's going into the truck and utility vehicles that are popular right now that we'll discuss in more detail on a future slide. But so far, through the first 2 months of this year, we are slightly behind last year's pace, about 212,000 units through the first 2 months of the year. Now, please keep in mind that in 2020, about half of March was affected, right? The real lockdowns began in the second half of the month, and we really felt them in April. So we already know, no matter what, as we do this every month, those March and April comparisons are going to be much more favorable. And at that point, we expect that the year is going to sort of be ahead of last year's pace, just because we're comparing ourselves to, oh my goodness, what a year that was in 2020. Quick look at production. The data, unfortunately, only went through January. So in red on the left-hand side, you can see that dot that represents January 2021. It is below the prior 3 years that we're also tracking here. And, essentially, that's not COVID anymore, right? The COVID disruptions are much more managed and isolated and, sort of caught and recouped before they really affect to the bottom line. I would say that most of this, it's not, market softness and so on, it's the microchip shortage. And the microchip shortage is impacting some segments more than others. And we'll get to that right here. So through February, this is a look at the US market by segment. And by the way, I sort of strategically placed these slides where they are to serve as a bit of a segue between this presentation and our featured speaker. So I want to point out sort of two things here. One, CUV, pickup, SUV, our top 3 segments, really dominant share of the total market. And also look at that green line for electrified. Reaching 7% is unheralded. I think for the total year last year, we were at 5.2%. That was an all-time record. And here we are right off the bat, first thing this year, we're already ahead of last year's record pace. In fact, when you look at how that pace is changing, what you'll see is that of all the segments that we're tracking, electrified is by far the most dynamic. Compared to this time last year, we're up 46% in terms of electrified vehicle sales. SUVs are also up, and then pickups and CUVs are losing less share than are losing fewer units than the overall market, which means they're picking up share. And so I'd like to segue to our featured speaker with this photo here of the Hummer electric pickup that is expected to be built at Factory Zero, because it's such a powerful indicator of where the market is going, right? That green line for electrified, you can see how dynamic that growth is. And by the way, this is a pickup truck, and you can see how important the truck part, regardless of powertrain, is in the overall market right now. Now, I'm also going to be speculative here, but it seems to me that this is also very much, a potential future utility. And I'm not going to say any more than that, given who our future speaker is. But, I'm just saying that to sort of point out how well poised this product is to take advantage of the market dynamics that we're seeing now. And also maybe a little nod to the maturity of this technology. That these are the products that we're now putting it into the heart of the market, where the consumer really is. We are now behind where we were 20 years ago when these cars were in their infancy, and they were little economy cars, right? Because the reason you bought it was, likely highly affected by the price of gasoline, and it was sort of a money-saving decision. The price of gasoline isn't really driving the electrified market anymore. Right. And we're seeing, in very large vehicle segments, very, very important vehicle segments, vehicles like this electric Hummer pickup truck, right? Really speaking to the sort of maturity and the consumer acceptance of these technologies. I think we're a little bit in a whole new era here. And no better person to talk about being in this whole new era than our featured speaker for today, Jim Quick, who serves as the plant executive director for the General Motors factory, the what we often call the Detroit Hamtramck plant or the Poletown plant, now Factory Zero, and a tremendous investment from General Motors to get that facility, fully updated, to get that workforce fully updated, to build these incredible cutting edge products. So Jim, I want to thank you very much for making the time to join us here this morning. We really appreciate having you as our featured speaker. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to the team at General Motors for Jim's comments.
Hey, thanks, Bernard. And it's my pleasure and honor to be with you and the team today. Do we have the presentation queued up by chance?
We do. I'm going to stop sharing here. And here we go. Jen, it looks like you're sharing right there.
Okay, fantastic. So again, thanks for having me today. And just maybe to build upon some of the things you had mentioned there at the end, Bernard, we're so proud to be Detroit-Hamtramck, and we will always be Detroit-Hamtramck. And I just wanted to get that out for everyone now. We rebranded or added the brand, if you will, to the plan of Factory Zero, and there's some really exciting stories behind why that is. But we never intended to walk away from the fact that we're such a large part of both communities and have a great history with Detroit and Hamtramck. Will always be a Detroit-Hamtramck now, Factory Zero Detroit-Hamtramck. So thanks in advance for knowing that and understanding our appreciation to be part of the community. I did want to talk a little bit today about some of the background of the plant for those of you that aren't aware of it, and then the investment. Obviously, the excitement around the future product. I wanted to talk a little bit about just the company itself and our transformation to an all-electric future. I'll touch on some of our strategic suppliers. Want to talk about what we're doing at the plant from a team engagement aspect. It's super exciting. There's a lot going on in that space. Touch on Ultium, and then love to open it up for some of the Q&A that'll come in. So just a little bit about the site. So the site was opened in the mid-'80s. It's proudly represented by UAW Local 22, led by Mike Slater, who's the chair of that local. The site's built over 4 million vehicles in its history, and then I was proud to be part of the last Chevy Impala coming off the line in February 27, just after we had made the announcement that we were going to do some major investments into the plant. It's a big site, about 360 acres. We enjoy about 17 acres of habitat, kind of green space that we've carved out. We've got solar arrays on the property to help with powering the grid, if you will, and then powering some of our electric vehicle charging stations. And just, a fantastic history with, third, fourth generation team members that you just can't, replace that passion and skill set. So we're really happy to sustain the facility with new investment and new exciting product. Just a couple of pictures on this slide. That's the last Impala coming off. We'll talk a little bit about the rebranding. There's a picture up there in the corner of when we changed the name of the plant or added the branding to the plant. And then that's a picture of a little bit of the construction going down in the right-hand side, which has been extensive the last year. Next slide. This is one of my favorite pictures. This was the unveiling of the sign and the announcement of the rebranding of the plant. This is Gerald Johnson, our global vice president of manufacturing for the company, a great friend of mine, came down and helped us do the unveiling. Had a COVID-safe presser during this time, and just a fantastic shot, and really shows, not only Gerald's enthusiasm, but I think he captured the enthusiasm of the entire crowd, the plant, during this event with this photo. So just a great photo. In a lot of this, I know that many of you are aware of, but this was one of the largest investments. It was the largest single investment for a single site at the time, about $2.2 billion. Major commitment by us in the company, $800 million in addition to supplier tooling and other related projects. And then the company, as you know, has committed $27 billion in EVs and AVs over the next 5 years. Next slide. So just wanted to talk a little bit about future products for Factory Zero. So I know you're all should be aware of, I hope you're aware of our super truck there that you see on the left-hand side, our Hummer SUT. And, you know, we've been probably over the last year or so pulling the curtain back a little more and more on the capabilities of this fantastic vehicle that we're going to build at Factory Zero in terms of the performance and how it's engineered. And it's just, you know, and it's so exciting to see it out now. We've got some teases out there on the internet of it going through its paces from the vehicles that we built in our pre-production facility. And it is exactly what we've named it. It's a super truck. There's nothing else like it out there and probably won't be. It'll take the competition a lot of time to catch up to the innovation that's been poured into this truck. And we're super excited to have it part of our portfolio at Factory Zero. On the right-hand side, we're also equally excited to be building the Cruise Origin, our first commercial driverless vehicle with Cruise, and then within the Cruise partnership. This is I would say the first purpose-built mobility people mover. There's a lot out there on the internet that you can look at in terms of the features around this vehicle, but it's got the campfire seating, and it's just a fantastic vehicle, and it's going to mean a lot to the future for the company. It's going to change mobility globally, and then it's going to mean a lot to us at Factory Zero in terms of being part of this and showcasing our capabilities that we've learned with other autonomous vehicle prototypes, such as the one that we're doing at Orion right now. Couple great vehicles. Okay, just a little bit about the transformation. So, you know, now we're going to be about a 4.5 million square foot facility. We've basically taken the place down to the studs and even removed some of the studs, if you will. This is an extensive full-blown renovation. We've taken a large portion of the ceiling off the plant, roof, if you will, walls down. We've taken the entire facility down to the studs. And then we are installing all new machine tools and equipment, conveyors, you know, the latest technology, if you will, to be able to build battery electric trucks, as well as our Cruise Origin, and then future products at the plant as well. This is a significant investment, as we talked about. This is driving a significant number of good paying U.S. manufacturing jobs right here in the city of Detroit and Hamtramck. And we had projected around 2,200 total manufacturing jobs at the site, but I would just tell you that I spent a lot of my day planning for potentially and hopefully more than that. Next slide, please. Just a quick video, time-lapse video on some of the demo and construction that's gone on in the facility with one of our strategic suppliers, GK. So this is our alpha phosphate area in the paint shop coming to life. I mentioned that we had taken the roof and the walls down in a significant area of the plant. That just happened to be the area of the plant that we did that. So that was post new roof and walls going up. We've had about 800 contractors on the site at any given time. We're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the renovation, moving at at ventilator speed, we call it. And GK has been a fantastic partner in this effort. Great video, thank you. Okay, so I had mentioned GK. I just want to talk a little bit about strategic suppliers. So, you know, we're moving extremely fast, and I talked about ventilator speed. So that's something that we really learned, leveraged, and embraced in our culture since going through the pandemic, and then being an important part of getting medical devices such as ventilators out to the people in need at breakneck speed, which we call ventilator speed, moving at ventilator speed. We've really taken that approach and spread that across every aspect of the business at GM now, certainly with what we're doing here at Factory Zero. And our strategic suppliers are a large part of that. I mentioned Gallagher Kaiser, ESYS, KUKA, HeroTech. We have many strategic suppliers from a machine tool and equipment standpoint that are helping us move at this speed to bring Factory Zero to life at ventilator speed and bring these exciting products that I described to you, safely, on time, with quality. And we couldn't do it without their partnership. So we're grateful for that. Next slide. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the things going on in the plant and from a personnel standpoint. So no matter if you're a represented employee or a non-represented employee at the facility, we're really taking a one-team approach and making sure that we're providing every team member, regardless of how they might be categorized in represented or non-represented, and making sure that we're taking every opportunity to take a one-team approach and then also be active in their growth and development. In the past, you might have seen or may have been accustomed to performance feedback is only on a non-represented side, or career planning may only be on a non-represented side, or mentorship. We've really taken a one-team approach to make sure that everybody can participate in really structured, great performance feedback so that people can know where we're winning and where we have opportunities. Making sure people understand that this is a fantastic experience. It's not a job, that it's a career, and wanting to understand what people want out of working with us and for us from a career standpoint, providing the ability to leverage mentors to help people realize their dreams and aspirations professionally. And then we provide a lot of on-site leadership training through our manufacturing university curriculum that we have with the company as part of our, I'll say, day after strategies for when you join the Factory Zero team. We've got a very, I would say, active employee resource group at Factory Zero that we've reinvigorated since bringing the plant back up. Our G-Man organization, General Motors African Ancestry Network, is very strong at Factory Zero, and I'm a proud member of that. And then obviously providing community relation opportunities for everybody on the site as well. Next slide, please. So I want to talk a little bit about Moments Matter. I was quoted, I don't know, probably 3-4 months ago about, hey, what are you focused in on as the plant executive director at Factory Zero, and really been focused on creating moments for our team. And here's just a few pictures of some of the moments I would say that we've created here in the last year or so. But things like our orientation process that we have is fantastic, where we do it at our global headquarters. We have open or pulled the curtain back, if you will, with our employees during times of the vehicle development process that we've never done before. and that other manufacturers would probably never even dare to do, to get our employees to a different level of engagement and involvement. Something they haven't been used to, that's been received very well. We've been involved with, as far as rebranding, we talked about rebranding factories, Detroit Hamtramck to Detroit Hamtramck Factory Zero. We've been changing some of the names of the internal streets of the plant as well, having fun with that and having great events, engagement breakfast, every opportunity that we can to leverage a moment. We've been taking advantage of that to make sure that we've got the most engaged workforce possible. And engagement at Factory Zero, unfortunately, hasn't been where we've wanted to be in the past, and that's understandable because of some of the history that the plant's gone through and some of the unallocations and announcements. So we've been leading with empathy in that regard, and I'm proud to say that Factory Zero, based upon our last assessment about 4 or 5 months ago, has the highest engagement of any workforce of General Motors in the United States. So it's working. We're going to continue to focus on that. And one of the quotes down here is, we're really not super focused on what's going on next year. We want to make sure that we're building something that's sustainable for the next 40 years. Next slide. And just real briefly about Ultium. So we're obviously super excited about the capabilities of our Ultium platform. And that's going to be the basis to be able to put every person in an electric vehicle at just about every price point for every function. The Ultium platform is by far superior over our competition's methods to electrify and commonize or build an electric vehicle. So I would just tell you that we're super proud to be General Motors' first all-electric vehicle assembly plant with contiguous battery assembly, and one of the first vehicles that are going to be off of the Ultium platform. And the capabilities with our Ultium platform are just endless and are really going to drive the future. And then just a little bit about Ultium cells. So I know that many of you have seen this in the paper, but we've obviously started a joint venture, Ultium, with our partner LG Chem down in Lordstown, and with a significant investment to build battery cells, of which those cells will supply Factory Zero to build modules into packs, and ultimately our rechargeable energy source, our large batteries that'll power the vehicle. Just a couple of pictures of what's been going on down there in Lordstown. This was their, finishing ceremony up in the left-hand corner where they hung their last piece of steel. And then I think the picture in the lower left-hand corners, I think we have probably some more recent drone shots than that now, but that's, kind of the state of the facility. And then that's a rendering, I believe, in the middle there of what it's going to look like when it's done. So more to come on Ultium, and we're excited to be this far along in the EV/AV journey. And Bernard, that was what I wanted to share today. I'd love to take some questions, or I think we've got some things coming in chat. And I want to thank you again for the opportunity.
Jim, thank you so much. That was a really good look, and it's both timely and fascinating because these subjects are certainly on the minds of everyone these days, both because of what's going on in the product sphere and because of where we see the automakers making just such significant investments. Jim, we had a few questions here that I think would be really good to get into. One here from Louis Dominguez. Can you talk about how much of that battery is coming together on site versus, and how much is coming in from the outside?
Yeah, sure. So, like I had mentioned, the cell itself, we manufacture at our Ultium facility in Fordstown, and then those cells are then shipped to us, and then the cells, along with all the other componentries for the res battery itself, are manufactured at Factory Zero. So if you can imagine a single pouch cell coming in to our automated storage system, and then what goes out into our assembly plant as a finished battery cell in the case. Okay,
got it. And one thing that we hear about often, Jim, is the workforce in terms of, how is that work different, especially in this case. It's kind of has been in an assembly plant for a few decades, and the folks have that experience under their belts. How is the training different? How is the work different in putting those batteries together?
Yeah, it is different, and that's a great point. I would just tell you that because of our experience at Brownstown and in our previous experiences with the Volt and our experience with LG, who's been a great partner, we're no strangers to battery technology and production. The training's different. There's no question around it. It's different building a high-powered rechargeable energy source than building a vehicle. I'm not going to say it's more difficult, just different, but we're very skilled in that.
Yep. Yeah, and let's see, Jim, can you talk a little bit about the other measures, the other initiatives that you're implementing at Factory Zero to help with sustainability and lowering the overall economic impact? I know, I think you did mention a solar power installation in your comments as well.
Yeah, so we do currently, and even at Detroit Hamtramck Assembly, we do have a couple different solar arrays on the property. We've got two in our carports, and we've got one large solar array right out on the boulevard to help with energy. We have an overall initiative with the company to be carbon neutral, I believe, and Jen, you'd have to correct me if I'm wrong here, by 2030, 2035. And DTE is a great partner in that with us. And we're proud of the fact that we've been leaders in sustainability. We've been, we've carved out a significant portion of our acreage to be green space, and we're continuing to look for opportunities to accelerate our ability to be good environmental stewards.
Yeah, and Jim, obviously here on the webinar, we've got folks not just from other states, but for example, extensively from Ontario as well. Can you make any connections to what GM is doing outside of Michigan? Are there similar initiatives that you're, some of these similar environmental measures that you're taking at other plants as well?
Yeah, when I talked about what our goals are for the company, that's, company-wide, I would say North America at least. So it's not just a, Factory Zero focus. It's cool being Factory Zero. I mean, zero stands for a lot of things, right? Zero crashes, zero emissions, zero congestion. We like to say in the operations world, it stands for zero injuries, zero defects, and then, zero cost overruns as well. But I would just tell you that the initiatives, we're leveraging the might and the scale of the company, and the company has its full weight behind our environmental objectives, evident by our commitment to full electrification.
Yep. Yeah, and so do you think, I mean, it's really kind of a tip of the spear thing. It looks like a lot of what's happening at Factory Zero is kind of, a bit of a moonshot that will then result in changes to other GM facilities as we go.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that we're at the tip of the spear. No question. That's exciting. I don't know if I would categorize it as a moonshot. I mean, it's it's that exciting, but we're very purposeful in how we're going about what we're doing. We're very confident in bringing our ability to successfully and efficiently and being world leaders in manufacturing, coupled with our Altium platform, our EV and our AV prowess with our cruise business. We intend to lead, and if you want to call it a moonshot, be successful in landing the ship.
Yeah, got it. Thanks, Jim. And then, a bit of a more operational question here. But will the Hummer EV and the Cruise be built on the same line, or will you have sort of different dedicated portions for each product?
Yeah, great question. It's different. It's not common, and we have some very specific reasons for that. And the way that we've set up Factory Zero, and I look forward in the future to perhaps even hosting some tours and explaining, live, real time, why we've done what we've done at Factory Zero in the approach that we've taken to the setup of the facility, which is very unique. I would say not only to General Motors, but to the industry.
Got it. No, and Jim, I would just want to say, as someone who's worked with General Motors for a long time on this program, GM's been a fantastic partner of the ACP, and you've allowed us to tour multiple factories over the years. We'd love to take you up on the offer to stop by Factory Zero once all of the COVID-related pandemic restrictions sort of allow that. But that would be fantastic. There's nothing like seeing it in the flesh live, especially, by then we're going to have product rolling on that line. Jim, can you talk about Industry 4.0? How much Industry 4.0 technology and philosophy is being implemented in Factory Zero?
Yeah, it's very much the Internet of Things, right? I mean, I would tell you that we're the first U.S. manufacturing facility to implement, 5G capability. We're going to need that for the tech that we're putting in the plant. I'm proud to tell you that we've been involved with our strategic suppliers to make sure that we've got, the machines, tools, and equipment that can leverage all the connectivity and then everything that we can gain from being connected in that regard, right down to even our operator interface screens at our operations to help keep our team members in tune with safety, quality, and throughput of the facility.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Okay, here's an interesting one. End of life. What about the end of life measures that are being put in place in relation to this plan for batteries and other sort of non-traditional elements of the vehicle?
Yeah, so I can speak, kind of briefly on batteries, and this is just, I guess, giving you some insight and some glimpses into some of the conversations I've been involved with. But one of the interesting things about electric vehicles and the batteries is that what we found is that the batteries actually last longer than the cars. And that suggests that the longevity of the battery is surpassing far what we had expected, which is a great news story. There's a lot of work going on in this space right now to, hey, can we use, can we reuse? Can we use batteries to be energy sources for residential backup? Or, what are the materials that can be reused in the battery? So there's a lot going on in that space right now to not only make sure that we're leveraging the full extent of the commodity, but also, perhaps turn it into another source of revenue, and then also making sure that we're being good environmentalists.
Yeah. Jim, I have to tell you, the idea of using sort of retired automotive batteries for home residential power. It's interesting when I start that conversation with some of the folks I keep in touch with at utilities, sometimes I hear, well, those thoughts aren't as far along at this point as we thought they would be, specifically because the batteries are so darn good that they have such a long life in the vehicle. And I think that, that says a lot about the longevity and the sustained performance of these batteries, especially in a tough usage cycle like automotive is.
Sure.
So Jim, here's a question. Other than insertion of the battery pack, because we know that that's a critical difference between building a conventional vehicle and an EV, but what are the other significant differences of building this type of vehicle versus the conventional types of vehicles that were built at this plant in the past?
Yeah, well, so I mean, first of all, it's a truck in a true sense. So there's, in regards to Factory Zero specifically, it's a bigger vehicle. And then when we talk about the Cruise AV, this is a vehicle that doesn't have a steering wheel. This is a vehicle that doesn't have pedals. We need to make accommodations to the facility to be able to handle a larger size vehicle than the plant's ever built before in its entire history. As we go through the retooling, and then also we need to make sure that we accommodate the facility to handle the size, and also what's the technology differences of the vehicles that we're producing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it. And here's a related question. Jim, we often break down our analyses on unibody versus body on frame as the two ways to look at these sort of very, very, very broad vehicle categories. How on that spectrum would you classify the platform on which the Hummer EV will be built?
Yeah, so it would be classified as a unibody or body frame integral design, but I would say, with a pretty big asterisk there, not meaning that it's that plus a full frame, but what I guess the industry is, will understand, and what we already know is that you have to make accommodations for the battery within the body itself to make sure that it can withstand, side impact. We're going to produce, one of the safest vehicles in the world, whether it's electric or internal combustion, and the safety that goes into building an EV needs to take that into consideration. So that's actually part of the structure. So where perhaps a body frame integral might, to bookend it, may be on one side of the spectrum in terms of content versus a body frame or body on frame. I would say it's a bit of a hybrid, but nonetheless, it's designed with the utmost safety in mind, and that is part of the structure.
Yeah. It's part of an organization that studies the industry. I know having the whole battery be integral to the body it's going to cause us to think a little bit differently about things. We're going to have to sort of adapt to keep pace with what the industry is doing. Okay, here's another question.
Bernard, let me just also tell you that the fascination around this topic is kind of neat. I would tell you, just to validate part of what I was saying as well, and to maybe get the group's mind around the differences. When you talk about a body frame integral design from an EV standpoint, especially a super truck like we're building, it's mass, right? I mean, there's a lot of mass in a BFI EV super truck that perhaps you wouldn't see in other body frame integral type bodies to be able to accommodate this. So that's, I would say, not a hurdle, but it's an opportunity that we had to understand.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Thank you. And Jim, we've had this question sort of in different forms as well. But can you talk about, in total, the differences between, the number of labor hours that you need to, walk, sort of raw product into a vehicle for conventional vehicles versus a purely battery electric one, like we're talking here at Factory Zero?
Yeah, I mean, just I can talk in general that I think it's widely known that right now where we're at with electric vehicles, there are a little more labor hours involved with an electric vehicle versus a traditional ICE vehicle. But as you know, we're at the beginning stages of this, and we're going to continue to improve upon that. There's a lot of opportunities as we start to integrate things like our battery assembly into our assembly plants like we're doing at Factory Zero, as we make advances in some of the drive unit, as we make advances in the body structure. There are a few more labor hours. I think that's kind of known throughout the industry in an EV versus an ICE.
Right. Yeah, and Jim, we see folks sort of coming at the subject from multiple ways. One talking about just the vehicle assembly, but then, for example, in the Automotive Communities Partnership, we have multiple communities that are very dependent on an engine plant, a transmission plant. And the transition for those facilities is often on the minds of the folks that are on these calls. And Jim, I don't know to what degree you can talk about BrightDrop, but are there any plans for something similar to be happening in Canada at the CAMI plant, which will be building the BrightDrop vehicles? And maybe if you could just give us a little bit of background into BrightDrop itself, just for those who are on the webinar but are not aware of it.
Yeah, so I don't have a lot of information on BrightDrop. Maybe a lot of the audience has read. Just BrightDrop's a delivery service that we ventured into, and we're super excited about that opportunity. We'll be building an all-electric delivery van, as well as some delivery electric palletized devices to capture an opportunity in that space and in that industry. And FedEx has been an initial partner in that, with some delivery set with some vehicles for them. So it's an exciting new opportunity. I think what you'll see now, what I would just tell you in general, is that General Motors is going to continue to look for opportunities in the space, whether it's mobility, moving people, packages, you name it, with our electric vehicle capabilities to continue to drive new sources of revenue and being leaders in that.
Yeah. Well, I certainly think, with the global economy more dependent every day on goods dropped and delivered directly into consumers' hands at the home, it seems like a very fruitful field to be making a move into these days. And then, Jim, final question here would be, can you provide a little bit more depth about the difference in terms of the skill set necessary for folks? How much more computer literate do they have to be? How does the training keep pace with any of those differences as you make that transition?
Yeah, so there are different skill sets that we need people to keep in mind, because they're going to be interfacing with, obviously, the latest technology. We've got really extensive upfront training plans for our operators, if you will, or our team members, with a program called Vinzendo. We've been leveraging virtual reality training to make sure that we're interfacing in a virtual sense, in a virtual world, with the machines, tools, and equipment and the vehicle prior to actually doing it, to be able to identify opportunities for improvement, and using things like VR and using things like Vinzendo. There's obviously training that we need to put people through so that they can leverage that opportunity, and then we can reap the fullest benefit from that. And that's just a couple, to name a few. I would say the one thing that we're really focused in on as well, which is, I would say, one of the most important things, is maybe not trying to train in new technology, but train the entire team in what the highest level of engagement looks like. Everybody in inclusion, leveraging our scale as a company and as a facility to make sure that everyone's ideas are included, that everyone's along for the ride, and everyone feels that they're part and knows that they're part of something special.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it's safe to say you guys just done a great job sharing that message, because following the industry, the way that we do, holy cow, you're on top of, one of the greatest stories that's being told these days. So Jim, I would just like to say thank you very much. We are both blown away by the work that you're doing. I can't wait to actually see it in person one day and share it with some of the members. But I also want to take a moment to say thank you for joining us today. I imagine with all that going on, you've got a whole lot of demands on your time. So we do appreciate you making this time available for us. Thank you very much. And yeah, as if we at CAR can be of service in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out to us as we go. Okay, with that.
And I appreciate the time. Look forward to showing you all in person. Appreciate you.
Yep, thanks very much, Jim. All right, everyone, I would just like to say thank you again for joining us. Have a great rest of your day. And we look forward to joining you on the April call. In the meantime, for any questions, anything we can be of assistance with, please do feel free to reach out. So again, thank you very much and have a great day.